Hi guys, welcome to our second session for week 3. Today we are going to go over buttons and how to control them using the timeline. Our next lecture is Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. This lecture will be all about those of you that need help either with this week's or previous week's work in troubleshooting Animate, troubleshooting your design ideas and your storyboard, things like that. So if you have questions like that or need help with some of your assignments, have questions or anything like that, please come in Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time and let me help you so that everybody gets caught up and we end on a very, very positive note this week. Okay, guys, we're going to jump right into Animate because I think the best way to learn about the buttons and things like that is for me to actually show you and not sit here and talk to you for an hour trying to explain it and then show you. It's just usually a little more easier to understand and kind of grasp the concept when I'm actually showing and talking at the same time. So you don't have to try and imagine what I'm talking about. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on just simply making buttons. You can use any of your drawing tools to make your buttons. I'm going to start with the square tool here. And I'm going to give my buttons color. Just going to go with some regular, get a little bit of granite so it kind of puffs out a little bit. And I want to curve my corners. I want kind of a rounded rectangle. And let's see what this does for me. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. It's not quite the direction I want. So again, I'm just going to go to my gradient tool here. And I'm set to radial. Let's change this to linear. And I want to add another square here at the bottom. And I actually want to do, oops, this and my transform tool. Twist it and squish it. That looks better for my button. I like that. So then I'm going to take some text. And we'll make this the play button. Definitely not going to use that text, but oops. And we could make a simple play button like that. Or you could make the standard play button using your circle. We're going to use this for now, and we'll go into some other ones momentarily. Okay, so I'm going to select everything now. I'm just going to use my black arrow, my selection tool, and just draw a square over everything so it's selected. And go to modify, and I want to convert this to a symbol. I'm going to make sure it says button here. And I'm going to call this the play button. Here's my play button. Now, anytime you make a button can be an actual button or it can be a movie clip. The timeline controls it easiest when you go ahead and mark it as a button, but that's not always possible because sometimes you're calling movie clips to the stage and you need those movie clips to actually play. And so they can't be buttons, they have to be motion twins. In this case, though, you are making actual buttons. So go ahead and make them a button symbol instead of a movie clip symbol. And the one thing you have to do, whether it's a movie clip or a button, if you are going to be controlling it with code, you have to give it an instance name. And that instance name goes in this box right there. In this case, and your instance name has to be one word It cannot start with a number or an uppercase letter. So I'm going to call mine play BTN. I usually use camel casing. So the first word's lowercase, second word starts with a capital letter, that sort of thing. And so that's my play button. So now let's put something on my timeline so we can test the control. Here, grab square. And we'll make this a motion swing. Grab my square here. Oops. Accidentally moved it. Let's try this again. There we go. Even up my timeline here. And we'll just make it go from one side to the other, like that. Get rid of that layer altogether. Okay, so I'm my motion tween, and we're going to use the play button to control it, to start it so that it plays. So I want to make a new layer, and this is called the actions layer. And what I want to do is first I want to make sure everything stops. Nothing plays to start with. I'm going to go to Windows and open up my Actions panel. And it's going to open up a little box that looks like this. Yours may be shaped differently. Mine's scaled from when I usually use it. That's comfortable for me to work in. And the first thing I'm going to do is type this dot stop. That stops everything from playing. This dot stop, 2 parentheses and a semicolon. So that if we test this in the browser, nothing will happen. Do some testing. Share my screen. I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop here so you guys can see it all. You can see in my browser, nothing happens. And when I click the play button, if I scroll over it, you see I get a hand tool. It shows that, hey, you can click here. We all know that means that, right? A little hand icon with the finger pointing out means you can click on something. Well, nothing happens because I haven't told it to, and my square is not moving. So back to animate. I need to program it so that when somebody clicks on that play button, it actually plays. So I click on my play button. Quickest way, if you're not that familiar with jQuery and JavaScript, and since this class hasn't really gone over that, I don't expect you to absolutely learn it this week. So you can simply click on your play button and go down to code snippets. And it's going to open up this little panel. You're going to click on the HTML5 canvas folder. Click that little arrow next to it and it'll expand it. Well, we need to say when somebody clicks on this button, we want something to happen, right? And that is a event handler, a mouse click. When they click on it, do something. So with my play button selected, I'm going to double click on mouse click event. And you see what happens. It puts all this code in here. All of this gray text is just directions. You can erase them. So now we have this line of code here that says this dot play button dot add event listener, click, and then it renames our button and binds it to this set of code. And it says this, which is our artboard, our animation, what is happening right then. So basically what this line of code is saying, hey, I need you to listen for the user to click on this button. And then we have our function which says, okay, when somebody clicks on that button, I need you to do whatever is in between these two brackets. I'm going to delete all this code for now. because we need it to do one simple thing, right? This dot play. That's all we need it to do. We need it to play. So let's test it and see what we have now. Let's stop. So now if I hit the play button, look what happens. It plays. And then it stops. It only plays one time because it can't loop, because every time it tries to loop, it gets that stop command. So they have to hit play every single time. It'll play until it's done, and then it stops. So that is the play button. Now then, you can do all sorts of stuff with buttons, guys. All sorts of stuff. So let's get rid of my action panel. My codes, let's move my code snippets over here out of the way. And let's go to timeline. And let's say that we're gonna have something else, something where the user can choose to go to a different screen to move on. Like if you were making an interactive storybook, some games have these kind of commands. That sort of thing where the user clicks a button and it takes them to another part of the animation or another part of the story, so to speak. So we're going to make those. I'm going to go back down to layer 3. Your actions layer should always be the very, very top layer of your program. Always. No exceptions or it won't work correctly. So I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to make my keyframe out here. Insert keyframe. And I need to extend my actions panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and add some frames there. And then here's my button layer. I'm going to go ahead and extend this. We'll put them on the same layer. That's fine. 5. And then here's my second scene, or the second option the user is going to have. And I need to do something here. I'm going to add some frames in here. And this time maybe we'll use a circle. Let's color something different. Select it. Transform tool, and I want to make it a motion tween. Okay. And then down here. Smaller. And bigger. So it kind of pumps a little bit. Basically what's happening here. Okay, so now I'm going to add a keyframe right here because I want to add a new button at this point. I don't want to see the button in the first part. I want to see it in the second part. So I'm going to make a new button. Let's not do a gradient this time. Let's do something different. And my title, circle, black, and definitely too big. That's pretty good. So now I'm going to select it, modify, convert to symbol, button, and circle button, and of course an instance name. circle BTN. Now I need to give it some code. And I want to stop this here. I want to delete one frame out of the end of this button. Right there. And I'm going to make it insert keyframe on my actions layer right there. And open up my action script again. And this, stop. Otherwise, when I hit play, it's going to play the entire timeline. And I don't want it to play that circle bit until the user says show circle. And then it will play the circle. So I get the this dot stop. Then I've got my show circle button. I'm going to click on it. Once again, that needs to be a mouse click event. You can erase all this gray. And this time, I need it to go to and play frame. Let's see, I need it to go to and play frame. Bottom of my timeline says frame 21. Here's the problem. It starts, your frame starts at frame 1, right? So if frame 21, that's what it shows down here. But in JavaScript, JavaScript starts counting at 0. So you always need to minus 1 from whatever your frame number is. So I need to start at frame 20 instead of 21. So I need to go to and play 20. And add my frame number in there. My go-to play is not blue. What did I do wrong? Should work. Oh, this dot go to and play 20. Okay, let's test it. So I hit play. It plays until we get to this screen. And it says, hey, okay, make a choice. So if I click show circle, it automatically starts playing that until it gets to the end and goes back to the beginning. Now, as the story would continue, you would have a place where it would go back to when it's finished, or it would automatically stop and give them a choice to what they needed to do. Since this is the end of my timeline, though, it automatically loops back to the beginning. You can use buttons to do all kinds of things. You could use buttons to move objects. If I wanted to advance this square, have a stationary square, and have it named, I could use a button that the user could click, and that square would move forward just a little bit in increments. Every time they clicked it, it moved forward. You get the idea. That is how buttons work. Now let's go back and actually look at these buttons, because as we know, having a plain button isn't the brightest idea, right? Because when the user rolls over it, you need that button to do something. It needs some sort of animation to get the user's attention that really screams, hey, click on me. So on my play button, once I've turned it into a button, all you have to do is double click on it. And it brings you into this new timeline. And you see what it says, up, over, down, hit. Instead of having a numbered timeline, you have a button timeline. And this is the up position, meaning the normal state. We need some sort of rollover state. I'm going to right click in that frame that's right underneath over. And I'm going to say insert keyframe, because I want to repeat my button. I don't want to have to remake it. I want to make sure it's in the same location and everything's aligned exactly the same. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of funny. And when they roll over it, I want to change this color. So I'm simply going to go to my color palette here and change something. Maybe I'll change this to yellow. So when they roll over it, it turns kind of yellow. Now we have the down state. I'm going to insert keyframe again. And when they click on it, it's actually going to move down and over just a little bit. So let's see what that looks like. Let's test it again. So now if I roll over it, you see, it turns yellow. That's great. That's good user interface. Makes for a good user experience, right? And when I click on it, it actually has that little bit of animation that looks like I actually clicked on something. So that works pretty well, right? Roll over it and click on it. But my show circle is still stationary. So I would have to do the same thing to it. That is the basic of buttons, guys. Your timeline, your code snippets have all sorts of stuff. Your stop at this frame, get current frame number, click to go to frame and stop, click to go to frame and play, which is what I did. I just typed it out instead. And you've got all sorts of actions. Click to go to the web, click mouse cursor. So you could put a URL address in here or a button that says more information and send them to an outside website or a website within the one you're working on, just a different page so that they could get more information. And you do that with a click to go to web. Click and hide objects, so they could click on a button and it would hide something on the screen. So let's say you created a game kind of like Find the Thimble or Find This Object, and when they find the object, they click the button and it hides it so that they can see what they found and what they haven't found. Just little simple kids games works great on kids games. Show objects. Click to position an object. Show objects are great for storybook characters, especially when you're doing them for kids, because you know they read a little bit of text, and you do little buttons like show the bunny, show the bear, things like that. They click on it and it shows them a bear or it shows them a bunny. Click to position an object is how you could get something to move forward every time the user clicked on a button, that sort of thing. And then of course you have the event handlers, which is your mouse click, mouse over, mouse out, double click, that sort of thing. And then you've got your animation, move horizontally, move vertically. Again, a button click will move things in increments. Rotate, if you need something to go around and rotate when the user clicks on a button, you use this. Rotate once, it'll go around one time. Rotate continuously, it'll just keep rotating. And all sorts of stuff in here you can use. And the load and unload. You can load images from a library, which is great for making quick slideshows for your websites. Animate's great for that. You can use it with APIs. You can use some of the HTML5 canvas draw type stuff in here, like draw the ellipse, draw the polystar, that sort of thing. And then of course you've got your components where you can add different sorts of things. Your user interface buttons like a button click event, a chat box, a combo box. If you needed to add some sort of little form or something like that to an animated advertisement, you could use this type of stuff to create that form. And then of course you can add video, outside video. If you wanted to add a video to an animated infomercial, that's what I call them. If you needed to add a video to that, you can actually add video. And then of course you have some of your jQuery stuff, which is, you know, your date picker, your radio set selections, that sort of thing. You have your camera now, which is something new that they've added to this, which is awesome, where the user could take a image. We've all seen these little apps where it asks you to take a picture of yourself and you can do all sorts of things. Well, now you can build things like that using Animate with these camera options. You can set camera positions, the camera panning type thing. This will also get camera options, will allow the user to pick where an image comes from, whether it's one they taken or one in their photo library. But on the main timeline, we have a camera that you can use now, but you have to have it turned on. It's just a little add camera. And this little camera will do all sorts of stuff to control things on your timeline. And you can turn it into a motion twin. So I could do create motion twin and say when it gets here, I want the camera to zoom out. So it looks like everything's far away. So what happens is you get this kind of effect. Let's hit play. And everything gets far away. And you could tell it zoom in. Things get closer up, that sort of thing. You can do all sorts of things with your camera. Choose the direction and it will tilt things like your camera is being tilted. So the cameras are pretty cool function, and we really go over that in your next Animate class, but I just wanted to point it out because the rest of these commands will do things to your camera that you can do in code that you don't have to try and figure out on your timeline. So now then, we have buttons. And again, guys, you can make all kinds of buttons. We made just a regular, simple button. But as we know in most of our animations, they need to be up with the time, so to speak. So you may have to create your button. Use our rectangle tool. Oops. Let me start with a drawing object here first. There we go. And let's turn that off. I want to make my stroke a bit bigger. That's better. And then I need a triangle. Using a square tool. I don't want rounded corners though. Delete. Zero. Square. Better. Oh, my computer's thinking, please don't crash. There we go. Okay, so now I have my square. Put this down. There we go. Click on it. And I want to fill it. Transform tool. Still not quite there yet. There we go. Okay. So now I have a better play button. They're still not quite turned quite enough. There we go. So now, oops. Now we have what is the more modern play button symbol. We see this all the time. I could take this, set it, and we are actually going to make this bigger. So we see this in a lot of animations right now, the ones that don't start automatically. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to turn down my opacity because usually they're kind of opaque. Like that. turn that piece of this deal. Like that. Select it. Modify, convert to symbol. And this is going to be my play button now. Play button and play BTN. So now this is my play button. So now, when we test it and we start it, it looks like this. And we know when we see things like this, we need to click on them, right? That's the way it works. You click on them, it starts playing. Now in this case, I need to double click this though, because it needs some action, right? Because when you click on it, nothing's happening. So on the over, insert keyframe, the difference that I would make would be pretty simple. Select all this here. And simply turn up my opacity, make it solid. I really don't need a hit state because it's supposed to just disappear and start playing. So now when I test it, and I roll over it, and see, there's going to be an action. It's going to happen if they click on it. And so they click on it, and you see it doesn't disappear right away. Why is that? Well, that is because in my scene 1, I have that play button staying on the timeline. So if I want to get rid of it, I need to make sure it's only in frame 1. So let's remove these frames. And I'm going to push this out. Oops. Sorry about that. Push that out there. And I think I'm going to insert keyframe here because I want to get rid of this play button. I don't want it to show up again until I don't even need this play button here anymore. So we're going to get, oops, we're going to get rid of the play button here too. And it's just going to say show circle there. And here, I want to go insert keyframe. And instead of a show circle, I want a show square. So we go back to the start. So I'm going to delete that button. Actually, let's do it the quick way. I'm going to go to my circle button, right click, and I'm going to say duplicate, and we're going to call it square button. I'm going to double click that square button. Grab my type tool. And show square. Go. Back to scene 1, and here I want to bring out my square button. Put it right down here at the bottom. Instance name, square button. Square BTN. There we go. And that means I need to program this button, right? So I'm going to go Windows, actions, my square button. Close all of these so they aren't in our way here. And we need a mouse click event. Delete that. And I want it to go back and play the square, but I want it to skip the play button. I just want it to play it. So I would do this dot, go to, yes, go show to and play 1, because the play button is from frame 0. Remember, JavaScript starts counting at 0 instead of frame 1. So frame 1 on the timeline is actually frame 0. I want it to start at that second frame where after they push the play button, it starts moving. So I'm going to say I want you to go to and play frame 1, which is frame 2 of our timeline. So let's check out what we've got. We play, and then it says, hey, you want to see the circle? Sure, show circle. But it automatically looped. Well, that's because at the very end of our timeline, where we've asked it that we want to show the square, we haven't told it to stop. So on my actions panel, I'm going to insert a keyframe there. And in that very, very last frame, I'm going to do this dot stop command. So now when we test it, come on. I think I need to close these. There we go. Now I hit play, and it says show circle. Okay. And it finishes playing that circle, and then it says, hey, you want to see the square? So if I hit show square, we miss the play button and go straight to the square moving. This is how you can use buttons to control what's happening on your timeline. Now, so if you want to get creative and use some of this type of stuff in your animated ad, go for it. Absolutely, I'll accept it. Otherwise, you can just use your buttons on your actual animation this week. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and close out this action panel for now. And I'm going to close this. And we're going to go into, and you're going to open up, I told you guys that watched yesterday's lecture. So if you didn't watch it, then you get a second chance to hear the easiness. Because I want you guys to spend most of your time on your assignment in making your animated ad the best it can be. For your assessment, you can use the animation you created last week or in week 1. You can use whichever one of them you want to use. And use it to, which one of these guys? And use it to add your buttons to. Well, I had problems with this file last week. Yeah, it's this one. That's what I thought. Okay, so you can use your animation you did last week instead of having to do an entire new animation. If you have time and you want to practice your skills, go for it. But to make it easier on you, for those of you that are spending a lot of time on your animated ad, to make it easier, just use your animation from last week and add the buttons to that animation. So this is the animation I did last week for the demo. So I am going to create my new layer, and I'm going to name it buttons, so we don't get confused and we know what it is. And we're going to add my buttons. Well, I know I need a play button at the very beginning. I'm going to go ahead and make this a keyframe because I'm going to do the modern play button like we did earlier. Turn my fill color off here. And see. Oops. Oh. Put this in the center of my artboard. There we go. It's a little darker gray than I want. There we go, like that. And then I need to make my triangle. Turn my stroke off this time. Make my triangle. My transform tool. I've got an edge here. It's not as quite as sharp as I want it to be. There we go. That's better. Yeah, flip this around. Oops. Straight. Bigger. And still looks a little too sharp. That's better. There we go. That works. Okay, so now I have my play button. I'm going to lock every single layer except for my buttons layer so that I can quickly select this. That, and come on, artboard, stay in position. It just moves whenever it wants to. Okay, convert to symbol. Make sure it says button. And this is going to be my play button. And I have to give it an instance name. Play BTN. Oops, play BTN or play button. And so this is my play button. And I'm going to double click it because we're going to go ahead and animate this play button. And on the up, I want the opacity down to 32%, probably is good. And then the opacity of my fill, 32%. And then I'm gonna insert keyframe here and change this opacity back to 100. Oops, wrong color. Like that. And I don't need it down because it's going to disappear. So I'm going to go back to scene 1. Okay, so I have this button. But I know that I also need a pause or stop button. Like I said yesterday, you can make both buttons, or you can make either or. You can do a pause button or you can do a stop button. And in the more modern animations we're seeing, and even videos, all we're seeing is that pause button. Why? Because theoretically, the pause and stop button are the exact same. Either one you click stops what's playing. So why do you need both? Why give the users two options, and which would they want to use to stop? They can just hit pause and it stops. And then they can hit play again and it plays. That's why you're seeing it in the more modern browsers. Used to, you had all three options, even though the stop and the play button did essentially the same thing. In the beginning, the stop button didn't do that. When this all came about and we first started adding videos and animation to the web, what happened was when you hit the stop button, it automatically went back to the beginning. If you hit stop, it went back to the beginning of the timeline. If you hit pause, it stopped right there on the timeline. But as user experience grew, user UI grew as well. And so it became that not many people were using stop because it sent them back to the beginning. They were just pausing so they could do whatever they needed to do and then come back. So eventually, to improve that UI, UX, we just got rid of that stop button altogether. And so you just went to the pause button, and then when it got to the end, you could just hit play again and it would start over. And it still works that way. So you can make either a stop button or you can make a play or pause button. It's entirely up to you. I am going to make a pause button. Oops. Still off. And then my line tool, rounded. It's not quite thick enough. It's a little bit thicker back there. And I'm going to copy and paste. Select them. Align. There we go. And then I want to bring them inside here. They're too big. Yeah, it looks better. So I'm going to select all this. Modify. Convert to symbol. Of course, it's a button. And I'm going to do pause button. Instance name of pause PTN. And just to be smaller. And I'm going to put it down here in the corner. Out of the way. You can put it in the corner. You put it in the top corner. You kind of see them all over the place. I think I want to go right in there with my pause button. Now it doesn't stand out too much, doesn't it? So I kind of need to rethink this a little bit. The gray is just not working for this button. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to make it white. It has to be contrast, otherwise we can't see it. So in my over, I'm going to insert keyframe. And then select it and change its color. How about some yellow? And then this time I want to give it a down. So I'm going to insert keyframe. I want it to be yellow here too. I'm going to go 1, 2, 1. It's going to be a small movement, but it'll move. And go back to scene 1. So now I have more buttons. So I need my actions layer because we need to program those buttons. So I'm going to go here and go actions. Sorry about that, guys. We'll go to Windows and actions. And the first thing is we need it to stop, right? We don't want it to automatically play. We want the user to have to see it play. So this dot stop, 2 parentheses, semicolon, is the command to just stop the animation so it doesn't stop. And then we want to make it so that when they hit play, it actually starts playing. So mouse click event. And I'm going to get rid of all this gray code. It just kind of gets in my way and distracts me. So I'm getting rid of all of that. And in between the function brackets, these 2 brackets is where I tell it what to do when the user clicks on the button. Well, I want it to play. So I'm just going to do this dot play. 2 parentheses and a semicolon. Much like this dot stop, this dot play just makes it play. Okay, so now I'm going to advance my timeline just 1 frame so I can see my pause button because I need to program that pause button to stop. So once again, I'm on a mouse click event. And I'm going to erase all this crazy code. And in between the 2 brackets for the function, I'm going to tell it what I want it to do. And I want it to just stop. This dot stop. Yep, two parentheses and a semicolon. So let's test it. So here's my movie. My button's it's a little too opaque. I need to turn that up a little bit. So I'll fix that, but we're going to go ahead and test the button, see if it was working. The rollover works nicely. I hit play, it plays. I hit pause, and is anything happening? There we go. I hit pause, and it stops. What doesn't stop? My butterfly's wings are still flapping. They do not stop because that is a nested tween. And I'm only controlling the main timeline. In order to get those wings to stop, I have to put in some additional commands because I need it to stop those wings. So let's go back to Animate and let's see how we can make it do that. First thing I'm going to have to do is go into my dragonfly. So let's go back to our timeline. And there's my dragonflies. I need to double click them so I can get inside them. Come on. There we go. And I have my wing layers, right? So I'm going to click on my first set of wings here, and I need to give it an instance name. So we go, let's just say wing 1. And click on the other set. And I'm just going to call it wing 2. I enter key. And I'm going to go back to scene 1. And back to my actions panel here. And here's where the pause button comes in. So I want to do this dot stop. Actually, this dot wing 1 dot stop. It will work. And this dot wing 2 dot stop. This dot wing 1, this dot wing 2. Let's test it. Play. Pause. Oh, look at that. We are still flapping. And we are not. Nope, not pausing. Okay, so let's look at our code here. What's that? That is where I made them, right? That's nothing happens now. Well, that's because I have an error in my code because I took off the this. This dot wing 1, this dot wing 2. And that's what we name the instance name of our wings, right? I didn't misspell that or anything. I'm not crazy, right? Wing 1, wing 2, yes. But we have it as a movie clip here. So let's give it dragon fly. Call it dragonfly. And oh, this dot dragonfly dot stop. Sorry, guys. My cough almost disappears, and then for some reason it just kind of comes back. And stop. Oops, doing a little twist. Stop. Stop. And our wings are still flapping. So what if I do this dot dot, this dot dragonfly dot, did I call it wings one or wing one? I had a horrible memory today. Wing one. Wing one dot stop, and this dot dragonfly dot wing two dot stop. And play. And stop. Come on, stop. There we go. Our wings still are not stopping. Let's take a look at my libraries panel and see what's going on here. Right wing. Left wing. I wonder. Right wing. Left wing. Let's see if that makes a difference. Play. No. But that gives me another idea. Dot in one dots. I don't know if it's a right wing ever. We're going to go and figure that out. Yep, the right wing. Okay. Wing two. Left wing. Or should that be opposite? They're not supposed to be opposite. We're still flapping. Okay, so if I go right wing, that is not right wing. Right wing. There should still be a this there. There's that. Left wing dot wing two. Oh no, I'm not stopping it all again. Nope, stop. Oh, oh. Nope, doesn't like that. So wing one should have stopped it. Honestly, that should have worked. Why is that not working? This dot. Wing one. That's the bottom wing, right? It is wing one, and it's the right wing. This dot. Wing one dot stop. But it's inside the dragonfly. Oops. Dragonfly. Right, that's what it's called. This. Dragonfly. Yep. That should stop it. Dot wing one dot stop. Dragonfly dot wing one dot stop. Inside the dragonfly. Come on, inside the dragonfly, we have wing 1 and wing 2. I should stop it. Play. Pause. We pause, our bear stops, but our dragonfly is still flopping away up there. So let's try something else. What if we just do dragonfly? I don't think that'll stop it though. Yeah, that does it. So I don't have to specify the wings. I just have to specify the dragonfly needs to stop. That works pretty well. Okay, but the thing is, in my timeline, I have a second dragonfly here. And so I need to name it dragonfly. Again. Play. Now my wings didn't stop. Let's refresh that and try again. Yeah, I don't want to stop at all. Nope. Stop. Okay, it doesn't like the second. When stuff like that starts happening, guys, it's because it doesn't like the fact that I have two different objects named the same. So I can name this dragonfly 2, for instance, and that should fix our issue. That stopped it. Let's refresh this again and let me play through the second one because the second one should keep flying. It'll stop, but the wings should keep flapping until I tell it that those need to stop. Those keep flapping. So in my, here between my function, I need to say, okay, I want the dis.dragonfly 2 to stop as well. Stops there. Refresh it, play it again, and wait for that second dragonfly to come on, and it happens at takeoff. So there's my second. Oops, hey, stop, stop. There we go. And it stops. And my wings are not flapping. My bear's not moving. Everything has stopped, but I don't have another way to play here. So that means that I need another play button as well. Think good UI when you're doing this. So I'm going to go back to this frame here. First, I want to go back to frame 1 because I want to fix my timeline here. First, I'm going to turn this off. And then do the same on this one. This. This. And bye-bye stroke. And I want to turn it off after this. Maybe that 56. And paste it in. Oops. I think that will look better. And then I need a second play button in the second frame. Right down here. So what I'm going to do is go to my library. I'm going to find that play button and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm simply going to name it play button 2. And double click it because it needs to be white. Oh, properties panel. White and 100% white. And white 100%. And back to scene 1. Back to my library. Here's my play button 2. Drag it out. Something's wrong. Oh, I know what I did. I accidentally filled that circle. Yep, yep, yep. There we go. Back to my library. There we go. And definitely don't want it that big, right? It needs to be small, like the pause button. I might make it a little bit bigger because it's the play button. Maybe the pause button should be bigger. What do you think, guys? Which would make better UI? Pause button or play button being bigger? The pause button. Why? Because they've already playing it. So the play button is not as important here as the pause button, right? And we know that a button that's just a little bit bigger than the button next to it means it's a little more important, makes it a little easier for the user to click on. It doesn't have to be a lot bigger, just a little bigger. And then I want to double click this button because here we need to change its color to yellow. Oh, and then this one needs a down, so I'm going to insert keyframe, select it all, go 1, 2, ooh. And let's undo that because it's not in the right location. So I am going to see if I can select all these keyframes. Yeah. And I want to bump this button over a little bit. So I need it to move a little when I click on it. So there. Now I'm going to bump it twice and down once. Back to scene 1. And this is going to be my play BTN 2. Can't start with a number, but it can end with a number. And then click on it. And mouse click. Erase that gray text. And if they play it again, I need it to start playing. So this dot, play. Let's see what happens. That looks better, much cleaner. So play, pause, play. But look at my butterfly, guys. What didn't start? My wings aren't flapping. Because we've stopped them with the pause button, I have to restart them. So just like the stop commands, I'm going to do this dot, dragonfly dot, play. And this dot, dragonfly 2 dot, play. And I don't actually need this. Let's play it in. Now, guys, you know how much I preach about you guys testing with your buttons. I cannot tell you how important it is to test after you do every single thing. So we pause, we're good. Play, And we start flapping again. Yay! So, oops, come on. Pause. Yeah, we stop and we play. So my buttons are working. I cannot tell you how much and how important it is that you test every time you add script for one of your buttons. So when you do the first play button, test it. Because here's what happens if you wait to the end. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to cause some stuff to happen that are common errors you guys would get. So now I've written all my code, got all my buttons, and I'm testing it for the first time. And nothing happens. Why? Because I have errors in my code. I've forgotten semicolons and parentheses, and I forgot an instance name. And now you have to try and figure out throughout all that code where the mistake happened and how to fix it. You've got your output. We don't have any real warnings here. You can attempt to debug. Not going to work very well for you. You can open up your, I'm not even sure it even exists anymore. My output is open. It doesn't look like that box even exists anymore after the last update. There used to be an error type box, but it was mainly focused at ActionScript 3. And if you're working in an ActionScript 3 box, I bet you it still pops up and tells you what your errors are. Unfortunately, guess what? We don't get so lucky with JavaScript. So that means you are stuck going through every single bit of your code, trying to figure out which line of code has the issue. And you have to go back to every frame you have code on and go through it and say, okay, oh, look, I forgot a parentheses there. So we fix it and you test it. Oh, it comes up, look there. So let's hit play. And then we hit pause. Doesn't stop. So that means we've got something else wrong. So now we got to go down and we got to find that pause script. Here's my pause button, and we're going to go through here. Oh, look there. I forgot a semicolon. Now I can find these very quickly. Because I know this code and I use it all the time. And so I can go through and pick out little typos, and that is the number one cause, guys. You have typoed something. Either you've forgotten an instance name, you've typed the instance name incorrectly, you've forgotten a semicolon, you forgot the word this before the code, you forgot your parentheses. It's usually some type of typo that is happening that's causing your error. So now I fixed all of that in my code. So let's take a look now. Pause. Oh, look there, everything stops. But Nothing's playing. So look at my play. Well, I don't see any errors there, so something's wrong. Next thing you need to check when you don't find errors is click on that button on your artboard. Check the instance name. Did you accidentally delete it? But it's easier to troubleshoot, guys, if you will do it a button at a time. Make the button, script the button, test the button. See if it works. If it doesn't, then you troubleshoot that code until you get it working and then move on to the next. It's much easier than getting all of your buttons done and then figuring out you have an error somewhere and having to go back through everything and try to figure out where you went wrong. It's much easier if you will do it in steps and just check it every time you build a button and you code that button. Oh, there we go. We are pausing. It's just being crazy. Go, and we're playing, we're stopping, and we're playing. So I work, I'm good. Yay! Then you guys, you need to export. You have to publish. It is going to be a major portion of your grade. Make sure you publish and turn in the right file. So I'm going to do file and I'm going to save as. I'm in my DS246 folder, but I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to call it Week 3 Assessment. And get rid of that recovered and call this Assessment 3. My first and last name. And I'm saving it into that folder. So I'm going to go to File and Publish Settings. Make sure you have a check mark next to JavaScript/HTML. And I'm going to hit Publish at the bottom of that box. Give me my little publishing there. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, when I look inside that folder, I'm going to week 3. You see the files. There's my FOA. That's my Canvas file. There is my HTML file. There is my actual JavaScript file. And this is where you're going to end up finding the code you just wrote for your actions, along with any of the JavaScript that was automatically created based on the animations you've got going on here, like your bone tool and things like that. All kinds of nifty stuff that can be found in this JS file. I still think animate still work. That's a bunch more code than necessary, but considering it does the majority of it for you, it's pretty great. You're gonna zip that folder. Just simply zip it. And then rename that zip file to DS246 Assessment 3, your first and last name. And that's what you're going to submit to the Dropbox for the assessment. Again, guys, you can just use your assessment from last week and add the buttons to it. You don't have to worry about making an entire new animation. I want you guys to spend the majority of your time on your actual advertisement. And you only have to do a play and pause button. You don't have to do play, pause, and stop for the reasons I talked about earlier. And I won't give you guys that spiel again. But you can do just the play and pause button. But remember, the play and pause button needs to show throughout the animation. So if you did it like mine, you're going to have to do 2 play buttons. Otherwise, you can just have 2 small buttons that are on your screen the entire time. One of them being a play button, one of them being a pause button. Now, if that is your original play button, then you may need to do the opposite that I did, where I made my pause button slightly bigger than my second play button, because at that point it was more important. However, if you're using just 2 small buttons throughout your entire animation, then your play button is more important, right? Because that's what starts the animation. So keep that in mind when you're sizing your buttons and that sort of thing. In what order you put them in, that kind of thing. Other than that, guys, that is the assessment. It's really not that difficult. If you have trouble with your code, please, 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 please. First, click on the button. Look at the instance name. Does it start with a number or a capital letter? You have a problem. It's not going to work. Your instance names must start with a lowercase letter, and they must be one word, no spacing. Once you checked and you made sure all of your instance names are correct, then you're going to go into the action script. Look for missing semicolons. Look at your instance names on your code line. Every time you go into your code, the first line, the this dot, whatever, play button, make sure that it matches the instance name of that, whatever's on your screen. Because this is what happens. Sometimes I've had students come in and they will do this mouse click event and set everything up and realize they didn't give that button an instance name. So they have to go back after they placed all their code and they click on the button and they give it an instance name of play BTN. But guess what? Since it didn't have an instance name first when they created this mouse click event, Animate will automatically name it something. Usually it's something like symbol 1 or item 1 or button 1. And so now what the code says and what the instance name is are two different things. You have to change it in your code to match whatever the instance name is that you gave it. Then you're going to check for missing semicolons, missing parentheses, making sure you have this dot in front of everything except for the function. That is my original large play button. Don't forget, if you start your animation and it just plays, well, that means you are missing the this dot stop on the very first frame of your actions panel. It should say this dot stop so that it doesn't play. Here's the script for my other two buttons. When it starts playing and my second play button appears and my pause button is up there. It's pretty simple code. And remember, if you're a flying object, you need to be able to stop its wings for flapping, which means on your artboard, you have to give an instance name to your bird or butterfly or dragonfly or bat or whatever it is you have flapping its wings. It must have an instance name. And then in your code for the pause button, not only do you have to say this dot stop, which stops your main timeline, like the bear, then you have to add your lines of code that will stop the nested tween, which is my dragonfly, because it has a motion tween inside this symbol. So I have to specifically tell, with JavaScript, tell this animation that when that pause button is stopped, I also want you to stop the timeline for the dragonfly so that the wings stop flapping. Those are the things I will be looking for in your code. If you have trouble with your code, guys, Wanda and Christy in the SSC can help you with this code. You may also email me. If you email me and you're having trouble with your code, take a screenshot of wherever you have ActionScript. Take a screenshot of it and attach that to your email. That way I can look at it, and if I see a typo, I can say, hey, oh, there it is, line 7. So make sure you take a big enough picture that I get these line numbers, because it'll make it easier for you to understand what I want you to correct. So I can say, oh, line 7, you're missing a semicolon. Or I can say line 3 says button 1. What's the actual instance name of that button on your artboard when you click on it? And you click on it and say, oh, it says play button. This is button 1. And you simply change it and we fix everything. It'll work much faster that way. So if you have to email me because your JavaScript is not working, go ahead and just take a screenshot of both panels where you have action anywhere on this left-hand side that says actions. Click on it, take a screenshot. Click on the next one, take a screenshot so that I can look at them and figure out where the problem went. Now, you cannot duplicate code. So that means I couldn't take this code and go out to frame 4 and repaste the exact same code, because I have duplicate code there. I'm telling that button two things to do that are identical. You will get an error, your code will not work. So when you're done, if you end up with, more than 2, I don't think any of you will need more than 2 sets of action of script on 2 different action frames. So if you end up with more, it probably means you got some duplicate code going on and you need to delete it. This is one of the reasons I delete all that gray text that you saw me erasing, because when you're going through it, checking for duplicate code and things like that, it makes it a lot easier because it looks cleaner. But any questions, screenshot your action script, because really, guys, if you want instant help, it's the only way I'm going to be able to give you that instant help, because I'm going to have to be able to see your code to say, okay, this is what's wrong. Line 19, you're missing a parentheses after play. Check your instance name for line 14. It says button 1. Click on that button on your artboard and see what it's actually called. Things like that. That will be how I'll help you fix your code. Or if you email me and say, my butterfly's wings won't stop flapping when I hit pause, and you've given me your code and you're missing this dot, whatever you name that movie clip, dot stop, I can instantly say, okay, this is why. Go back, click on your butterfly and give it an instance name. And then go back to your pause button where you have your script for your pause button. And underneath the function, in between the brackets where you type this dot stop, you're going to type this dot butterfly dot stop, 2 parentheses and a semicolon. That'll stop your wings from flapping. That way I can instantly answer your questions. You can quickly get it done and concentrate on your assignment. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow evening. Don't forget, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. If you need help, have questions, come in, see me, and let's work it out and make sure you're understanding what's going on and you're getting things caught up and turned in and you're having a little bit of fun instead of being stressed out. I will see you guys later.